Hi everybody, my name is Monor and welcome back to Page Turners, which is our diverse book club geared towards teens and young adults. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. This month marks the 1-year anniversary of us starting the Page Turner series, so I thought we'd take a little trip down memory lane and I'd talk about some of the favorite books that we've covered in this series so far. So without further ado, let's get into it. Coming in at number 5, we have The Girl from the Well. I was genuinely surprised at how much I enjoyed this book because I don't usually gravitate towards horror, and this book was the perfect introduction to it. I literally got chills while reading it, and I'm so glad that was the first book I picked up for this genre. I also really enjoyed how this book was written from Okiku's point of view, which I don't think really happens a lot in horror novels, and I think that the added complexity of it being based off Japanese spirit culture really helped sell the book for me too. Next up, we have Cemetery Boys, and this one was just the perfect mix of identity and culture surrounding Dia de Muertos, and we got to see how much Julian struggled in the Brujo community because of the fact that he's trans. Makes it very clear that there are discrepancies between magic and the Brujo community because of the fact that it excludes trans and non-binary people. I think that having that added layer to it makes the storyline much more complex. It makes us think about some things that we may not have thought about before. I think it's worth the read because of that too. Having culture, magic, and identity all tie in together in this book that makes us think outside of the box and outside of our worldview is something that I will always appreciate in a book, 100%. Okay, number 3 has to be We Hunt the Flame. Like horror, I don't usually go for sci-fi or fantasy a lot either. I think if anyone's watched these videos, they know I love a good romance more than anything, but We Hunt the Flame was just completely different. It took me by surprise how much I enjoyed it, and I know it's a hefty read, but I didn't mind all the world building in it, and I know that some people might find the pace of that a little bit slow, but because it was very similar to my culture and there was a lot of influence there and similarities in that, I didn't mind it. It was just the perfect enemies to lovers romance too, set in this sci-fi fantasy genre, and I think it's worth the investment to read all 500 pages of it and the sequel. The YA genre, I think, lacks a lot of diversity, especially in the sci-fi fantasy world, so it was really cool to see a Muslim author doing this as well, and I think it's a complete win for representation. Coming in at number 2 is Let's Talk About Love. This one has to be really high up on my favorites because 1, it's cute as all get out, and 2, it takes place in a library, so I'm a little biased. I admired the honesty of Alice trying to figure out work, life, love, all while trying to figure out what she wants to do professionally while she's in college. And it's just a really cute story about how she kind of falls for a coworker. This is definitely a more friends to lovers kind of vibe, and it's just absolutely adorable. And I think this is a really good representation for asexuality because I think that's something, especially within the LGBTQIA+ community, that doesn't get talked about a lot in novels, let alone in YA. So I think it's a step in the right direction for sure, and I really hope that we get to see more novels coming out in the YA space regarding this community. Okay, the number 1 spot has to go to Sway With Me. And if you watched my last video where we talked about Sway With Me, you'll know exactly why. This is probably my favorite one that we've covered so far in this series. And I think for me, it was because of the fact that I identified with a lot of the story. I really think that showing differences within a community can also help break down preconceived notions about a group of people. And I think it's important that we discuss that. And I also appreciated seeing Arsalan struggle within his 2 cultures because I feel like a lot of child of immigrants, or even if you're 2nd or 3rd generation, it can be hard to balance that. It's nice to see that even fictional characters go through that too. Again, I love this one because it had a very good found family trope, and I'm a sucker for that. It was so sweet, and I have it on good authority that I convinced a coworker to pick up this book because of my review. And if that doesn't tell you that you should check it out too, I don't know what will. And that's it. That's our top 5 for the annual Page Turners Roundup. I hope that y'all have enjoyed watching them as much as I've enjoyed making them, and we'll see you next time.